Hey everybody, Ryan coming back here with the second to last episode of my top 50 favorite films. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today on Ryan's Cinematic Obsessions. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Just a reminder, if you haven't seen the other installments of this, I recommend you go back and see it so you don't see this and go, well, what about these films? Doesn't he like these kind of films too? Why doesn't he talk about it? Well, go back. You might actually hear me talk about it. And I want to get this done quick because the Oscars are actually, it's Oscar night, and they're going to be starting in literally like 20 minutes. And so I don't want to miss it. Number 15 on the list is Bergman's The Seventh Seal. One of the most brilliant movies and influential movies of all time. If you've seen Bill and Ted, you know this movie does look familiar to you because the personification of death is used a lot in cinema. Usually for spoofing and parroting of this film, whether they know it or not. But this film is about a knight coming back from the Crusades who is actually, he runs into death, played by that dude right there, and death is there to take him. And he's like, no, don't take me. Actually, I'll challenge you to a game of chess, and whoever wins, if I win, I get to live. If I die, so on and so forth. And the movie is basically him playing chess with death, intercut with footage of him actually living the rest of his life, trying to, find out the meaning of life and God's existence. And it's a really powerful film, and I highly recommend it. So definitely check that out. The next one is by my favorite filmmaker, Stanley Kubrick. And actually there's a couple of his in this episode. And number 14 is A Clockwork Orange, one of the best directed films of all time. Very shocking for its day. Basically, it's about a guy who is a rebel and throughout different circumstances gets thrown into jail and gets brainwashed into being a perfect ideal citizen. I don't want to give any more of it away because it's such a brilliant film, but I highly recommend it. It is slightly disturbing, and so if you don't like disturbing films, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But for a cinephile and just people who love Stanley Kubrick and just anybody who loves movies in general, check it out. It's Clockwork Orange. I'm sure most of you already have. The next film is by Francis Ford Coppola, and this is number 13, and it's Apocalypse Now. There's two versions of this film. The one that was released in 1979, which is about 150-something minutes. It stars Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, a huge list of people. Harrison Ford shows up in it, and basically it's about a special forces, I think he's a captain. He's ordered to go down the river in Vietnam and assassinate a rogue colonel played by Marlon Brando. It's such a psychological movie. It's very, like I said, it's very psychological. Yes, I explained it, and it seems like it may have a simple plot, but due to the psychological issues of the film and the content that it embraces, it's very different than a lot of films. And there's two versions, like I said, this and a 200-minute version, Apocalypse Now Redux, which came out in, I think, 2001. I prefer the original version, but, I like the second version because it is a lot longer. And even though the scenes don't really add anything to it, it's like when you watch a favorite movie of yours, you sometimes like, man, I wish it just lasted longer. That's what that version is for. But I love this, and it's an amazing Blu-ray. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. You just got to check it out if you haven't. One of the best war movies of all time. Actually, in my opinion, the best war movie of all time. But it's so psychological and, psychedelic in an aspect that it's not like a Saving Private Ryan or anything. But you definitely need to check it out. Apocalypse Now. Alright, number 12 is one of my favorite comedies, Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, about a crazy general who, through all these different situations, ends up ordering a nuclear attack on Russia, and it's just the situation of, the government's trying to stop it. And brilliant performances by Peter Sellers, who plays three people. He plays Dr. Strangelove. He plays a British comrade assistant to the crazed General Jack D. Ripper, played by Sterling Hayden, another Kubrick regular from the early days, and George C. Scott in a very brilliantly hilarious performance as just a general who he's the aide to a president, and he's just kind of, I don't know, he's just kind of crazy, and not in a bad way, but he's just a high-strung guy. Perfect performance by George C. Scott. I almost forgot to mention Peter Sellers also plays the President of the United States. Great film. I highly recommend it. This Blu-ray of it is amazing. It has an early performance by James Earl Jones. So if you're a Star Wars fan like I am, Darth Vader, check it out. The next film is different than a lot of the other films I'll talk about, but I am a huge Star Trek fan, so how can I not include Star Trek in my favorite films list? So my favorite one out of the original Star Trek movies is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which after the first Star Trek movie, which was kind of a disappointment, it's still good, but it's just kind of boring in parts, but this one is amazing. It's kind of a sequel to not only to the first film, but it's a sequel to one of the episodes of the original television series. Great film. William Shatner, of course, leads the Enterprise as, Kirk, and Ricardo Montalban, you know what I'm trying to say. He reprises the role that he played in the television series as Khan. Brilliant film. My favorite show, Seinfeld, really pokes reference to this film a lot in its last season, and it's just such a brilliant movie. It's pure Star Trek at its best. Well, that's it. I was trying to make this kind of quick, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. I'll be uploading it ASAP, so by the time you get this, you'll see it in your inbox, or in your subscription feed. It'll be probably Monday morning, Monday afternoon. I don't know yet, but anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you in about 24 hours in my next video. Alright guys, remember there's 3 ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the Chattaway. See ya.